Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Jillian. It's Monday, and I've been losing track of days like all of you. Every day is the same when you think about it. Um, so last night I got an email from somebody. Actually, somebody was trolling my business page, and then I just disabled their ability to comment. And then they had to go to my email, and it's interesting. This person, I don't know how old this person was or who they were. I didn't even know that they were the same person that was on my business page trying to troll me and stuff. And they're like, oh, yeah, um, I have a brother who did the Julie juice and they passed away from it. They did the Julie juice, they did the waterfalls, and we can't take them to the hospital because of the coronavirus stuff. So they passed away. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And then I looked at the email address and it looked like the same person that was trolling me. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to forward this email to the FBI as well as make sure CPS knows to investigate this death because this seems pretty suspicious and this needs to be investigated. And so I'm going to forward this to the FBI and to the CPS, and they will determine what the actual cause of death is to your 15-year-old brother. Because I'm just like, what the fuck? These people are just so stupid. And so, and I'm like, okay, that's all I said. And then the kid comes back and says, hold on, I'm 15 years old. There's no need to get the authorities involved. I'm 15 years old. My brother is perfectly fine. He's 15. I was just joking. I'm sorry, la la la. And I'm like, motherfucker. I was just like, what the hell? And I didn't have the heart. I could have just, he said, please don't call the authorities. And I'm like, and I could have just left it alone and made him think, that the authorities were going to come to the house anytime soon because whatever. Because, anytime that someone says that someone died, regardless of from what it is, anybody can say whatever they want. It needs to be investigated. Okay? Because too many people will murder somebody or hurt somebody and blame it on whatever the current thing is out there, thinking that's going to, absolve them from responsibility if they were the one that caused that death to that person. And so I know what Julie juice is. I know the science behind it. So I'm not worried about anybody blaming me for anyone's death because it's asinine to do that. But I would want to know, the authorities would want to know what would cause that person's death. However, it turns out this kid was just messing with me. He's 15 years old, nothing better to do with his time except troll me. And I'm like, okay, I responded back and I was very kind. All right, you're 15 years old. You do not have enough experience to make those types of scientific assertions on something that has already been proven to be perfectly fine scientifically. You should do better things with your time. Take care. And I think he was thankful that I actually was not going to take it to the next level, which I could, yeah, I have the FBI's email. If there is a suspicious death, regardless of who they blame it on, it needs to be reported. So anybody out there that makes any claims that somebody died for whatever reason, doesn't matter what the reason is, you need to call the authorities and let the coroner's office determine the cause of death. Because this is how it works. When you die from natural causes, it's based upon predispositions, and the last antibody or the antigen that triggered the antibody, that was the last straw that broke the camel's back. Okay? So you're supposed to have a certain amount of antibodies based upon what your exposure to the environment is, but if you have too many antibodies, okay, when you have so many antibodies from a specific trigger of an antigen, that's when, if there's a suspicion of murder or poisoning, that's when they do the autopsies and test the blood to see what is the most prevalent antibody. And then they can say, yes, this was an antibiotic, whatever it was, whether it was a prescription drug, whether it was mercury, whether it was arsenic. And they can do all these toxicology reports. But just so you know, salt isn't toxic. It's not antibiotic. Neither is cabbage and kale. Neither is probiotics, because probiotics are not antibiotics. They're probiotics. So anytime you want to determine a cause of death, okay, first you got to rule out murder and suicide and infanticide. And then epidemiological research will then determine if this person just passes away like that with absolutely no warning, like this coronavirus. Then they go and test the body to see what was the newest antigen. And the coronavirus is the newest antigen. And when you have a new antigen in the environment creating rapid antibody accumulation, this is when people die from their predispositions. Because when you have weaknesses that you don't even know about or that you do know about, and you don't have any kind of intermediary like a vaccine, and yeah, no matter what, you're going to roll the dice. If you don't get a vaccine and you go out there and hang out in a crowd of people who are very, very communicable, you could die from that exposure, especially if you've never been exposed to that virus. Okay? And so that's what the research and the Gates Foundation, all of that, that's what they do. They test new and emerging infectious diseases. Okay? So to put it all to rest as far as the jelly juice, no one will die from the jelly juice. Nobody, because it's not antibiotic and it's not toxic and it won't create new antibodies. Okay? Yeah, it'll bring up antibodies that you already have in your body that you've already dealt with, and you're going to have to deal with it as it leaves your body. But you have the backup of the probiotics and the micro and macronutrition, the salts and the electrolytes and the water. Okay? So dealing with what you currently have, people are going to have to do that anyways because they've been dealing with cancer, disease, and chronic illness. But it's when you get a massive amount of antigen, which is basically something that's antibiotic. And viruses could be deemed as antibiotic based upon the predispositions. Okay? And so a strong person can handle a new virus in the environment. Like I can handle a new virus in the environment because I have a very strong immune system. And I'm also doing jelly juice so I can release the excess antibodies that are accumulating because of the new virus in the environment. And my body will bounce back just like that. But some of you can't afford to be exposed to a new aggressive virus in your environment because you have predispositions. You are aging. You are degrading. You have diagnosable diseases. You have such weaknesses that you cannot afford to be around someone who is that sick. You can't afford to be around outside when you have these clouds of floating antigen in the air because you're that weak. That's the truth of the matter. Antibodies, rapid antibody accumulation is the sole cause of cancer, yes, but you don't always die from cancer. That's just an indicator. But it's the sole cause of why people die from heart attacks. Thanks, Janice. Why people die from pneumonia because you don't have enough muscle contractions and muscle ability to release the mucus, the fluid in the lungs. Why people die from aneurysms and strokes, okay? Because if your bloodstream is so full of the antigen creating antibodies, it clogs up your blood to where you can't get oxygen to your heart and to your brain. And so that's why I've been saying stay away from all of these antibiotics out there, the natural remedies, because they create antibodies, and some of you cannot afford to take on more antibodies when you already have major predispositions. That's why they say anti-inflammatories does not work with this coronavirus. It'll make your cytokine storm even that much more aggressive. Stay away from anything that's antibiotic when you've been exposed to the coronavirus, because if you have predispositions, you can't afford to have another deluge of antibodies being created because of the cure. See, we can't have the cures be worse than the actual issue, but that's kind of what people are doing to themselves out there. They are taking turmeric and honey and colloidal silver, which will also create antibodies. Okay, they're doing the kombuchas, the apple cider vinegars. When you have fungus, you're supposed to have fungus in your body, and it eats the heavy metals, which it should. It also helps, it also eats excess sugars in your body. But when you are taking massive amounts of colloidal silver and other heavy metals, like detoxes, like bentonite clay and diatomaceous earth, you're feeding your fungus. And then the fungus becomes out of control, creates antibodies, and then it taxes and destroys good cell tissue as well as vital organs. And that's why people die, because they die from imbalances in their microbiome, which is the viruses, parasites, protozoa, proteins, bacteria, and fungus. And then they also die from imbalances in their biochemistry, the fatty acids, amino acids, prohormones, and minerals. And they're not balancing out their body correctly with the right chemistry. And so when they get exposed to either a cure, like a prescription drug, or turmeric and honey, or a virus, they won't be able to handle it. So those that are against the vaccines, and poor Bill Gates, he's getting screwed. But that's okay. We are at a time where people are going to have to deal with their decisions and their belief systems. So if you don't believe that Bill Gates has something credible to say, and you think you have what it takes to handle the environment, and you're not on J-juice, hey, Darwinism is a beautiful thing. We need less idiots in the world out there that are willing to put their kids at risk, who are not willing to protect their children, and we need to clean up this earth. Because poor Bill Gates, poor me, poor Bill Gates, poor me, and poor anyone that is trying to find a solution to these crazy ass times when they work with so many diverse people that are on different ends of the spectrum as between life and death. And there's no way to actually know, if you're dealing with the vaccines and the prescription drugs and the holistic remedies, where people are on that spectrum of life and death. And so they say, okay, this is not an exact science, but that's why we have doctors to determine if you're appropriate for this vaccine, for this natural remedy, or for this prescription drug. Okay, but no, people want to be a doctor and say, oh yeah, here, take this freaking turmeric and honey and elderberry syrup and colloidal silver and just deluge your body with it. And they act like a doctor, and they have no business recommending any of these MLMs or pills or powder supplements to any of their friends, because they have no idea the predispositions of their friends and family. So they are actually the ones are contributing to their friends and family's demise out of good intentions. So, you got to know what causes death, and it's not probiotics. Things that are determined antibiotic, that create antibodies, is what could potentially cause somebody's death if they already have an imbalance in their microbiome and biochemistry. And some of you are really teetering on that. And hopefully your release of the excess is far greater as far as the antibodies than you are accumulating and absorbing and harboring. But then you look at people's indicators, you look at their predispositions, you look at all their diagnosable diseases and the aging and the degrading, and you already know, you can predict what their lifespan's going to be. It's going to be so predictable. And you will be like a Bill Gates. I predict there's going to be a pandemic. I could predict that already. I mean, it's already happening. But they see patterns in nature. There are so many indicators. There are some educated ass people out there that understand indicators. Whether they understand the real estate market, or they understand biochemistry. Patterns in nature repeat themselves. But if you haven't been around long enough and you're not really observant to see the patterns, you're going to think that they're talking out of their ass, or they're trying to kill you, or you're going to think you discovered, the next best thing to fucking slice bread. Oh, but this has happened before. Oh, no, this is propaganda. They're trying to suppress our freedoms. They're trying to mass depopulate. No, you're depopulating yourself with your ignorance. So anyways, so that kid was happy. I wasn't gonna stick the authorities on him. I didn't send it off to the FBI. But if I really feel that somebody has done something to somebody in their family and they're trying to blame the J-juice, the FBI will get that email and they will do their investigation. So anyone that sends me an email that says that somebody died in their family for whatever reason, the FBI is going to be alerted. And I've already been talking to the FBI a couple years ago. I've already been under their interrogation because I was getting death threats. So they want to know what the fuck is going on. So I told them what was going on. They're like, okay, when you go out there, you're going to, when you stick your neck out, someone's going to go and try to do this. So, you kind of brought this on yourself. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. I did bring this on myself. However, if you want to investigate that, yeah. I mean, they're not going to not investigate anything like that. But they did say, hey, when you put yourself out there, this is what you have to expect. And believe me, I know all of the ramifications for sticking your neck out. However, I do have an email to the FBI. So anyone that wants to claim any death for whatever reason, no matter what it is, it's going to be going to the FBI. However, I didn't, for some reason, I didn't send it off this last time with this person, because I knew it was bullshit, because it's the way it sounded. However, there are some people that are that idiotic that I can tell, because I knew it was the kid that was on my my business page. And so I was like, they're just messing with me. However, if I really do see that there's a credible evidence that somebody actually has died in their family for whatever reason, and they're sending me an email trying to blame me, I'm making sure that there's an investigation. Because they will do and see if there is blunt force trauma or a drowning or a poisoning or anything of that matter. And so I'm not above doing that, because there should be nobody using jelly juice as a cover for any kind of horrific crimes such as murder or poisoning or anything like that. Okay? Or infanticide. Because there are some messed up people in the world. And when there are messed up people in the world, they need authorities to go and figure out and and do their investigation. So, but anyways, I just want to let you guys know that's how people die. That's what people do, or that's what happens when somebody dies. And that's why we have the coroners, and that's why we have autopsies, and that's why we have biotech, to make that micro determination, that determination at the micro level. Okay? All right. Have a good day. Thanks, guys. Bye.